The United Ant Colony. A mound divided. Part 1. The Unstable Mound. Chapter 1. The Queen's Weakening Pheromone. In the vast, bustling tunnels of the United Ant Colony, UAC, an eerie sense of uncertainty lingered in the air. It wasn't an invasion, nor an economic collapse. The sugar hoarders had yet to be exposed, nor even another termite scandal. No, this was something far more serious. Queen Formica IV's pheromones were weakening. For years, the Queen's pheromones had been the undisputed law of the land, or rather, the dirt. Her chemical signals dictated everything: who worked, who fought, who cleaned, and who was deemed important enough to attend mandible-to-mandible summits on mound structural integrity. But now, something was wrong. It started subtly. Worker ants found themselves stopping mid-tunnel, confused about what they were supposed to do. Did we just finish a shift? Or are we starting one? One ant asked another, antennae twitching with concern. At first, they dismissed it as a fluke. A minor glitch in the system, perhaps caused by those beetle diplomats meddling with the pheromone frequencies again. Then came the real warning signs. The soldiers began asking questions. Do we actually need to keep patrolling the perimeter? One of them asked hesitantly. Another frowned. Wait, who even decided we were at war with the foreign ants again? Someone check the archives, a third soldier barked. Was it the Queen, or was it just General Mandibulus trying to boost his approval ratings? The mound descends into pheromonal panic. The colony's top pheromone analysts convened an emergency summit inside the Queen's inner chambers. Lady Pheromona, ever the opportunist, declared it a national emergency. We are at a critical moment in our colony's history, she announced, her antennae gesturing dramatically. Without strong pheromonal leadership, the colony risks total collapse into chaos and anarchy. We must take decisive action. By decisive action, of course, she meant installing herself as the new ruler. The workers will no longer know who to obey, she warned. The soldiers will start asking dangerous questions, like, why are we guarding tunnels that lead nowhere? And worst of all, she paused for effect, the sugar hoarders will go unregulated. Gasps. Pure horror. The royal larva attempts leadership. Desperate to reassure the colony, Queen Formica IV's official successor, the royal larva, attempted to step in. It did not go well. The larva, plump and completely unqualified, was wheeled out in a ceremonial procession of 6 worker ants. It squirmed slightly in the spotlight, completely incapable of speech, movement, or basic survival skills. Still, a well-dressed media termite was already spinning the narrative. The royal larva represents a new era of leadership, the termite declared on Antennae News Network, AN. A fresh, young perspective, unburdened by the complexities of adulthood. A true leader for the modern colony. The worker ants, who had just finished a 16-hour shift carrying food 3 times their body weight, were not impressed. One of them turned to his colleague. Wait, didn't we just overthrow the last queen's successor because of nepotism? Yes, but this time it's a different kind of nepotism, the other whispered back. General Mandibulus smells opportunity, literally. Meanwhile, in the heavily guarded Ant Defense Forces tunnels, General Mandibulus twitched his antennae, inhaling deeply. The queen's pheromones are fading, he muttered, his mandibles clicking in thought. This is our chance. General Mandibulus had long advocated for a military-first approach to governance, famously stating that the best way to ensure peace is to always be preparing for war. The soldier ants cheered wildly at this. The workers, who would have to actually fund these endless war efforts, were less enthusiastic. Now, sensing the power vacuum, Mandibulus summoned his loyalist soldiers for a private meeting. It's clear, he said, that the civilian government has failed us. We must restore order. A temporary state of emergency is the only way. One of his top generals hesitated. You mean like last time? Mandibulus waved a dismissive mandible. Last time was different. How? Because this time it will work. This, of course, was not reassuring at all. The freeloaders seized the moment, while the elites panicked in the military scheme. The freeloaders, a radical faction of ants who believed in total sugar redistribution, saw an opportunity. We must act now. Their leader, Antagon, declared to his followers in a dimly lit tunnel beneath the mound. Without the queen's pheromones controlling us, we are finally free. A loud cheer erupted among the gathered rebels. No more mandatory shifts, one shouted. No more unfair sugar quotas, another added. No more monarchy. Antagon declared, his voice booming. The crowd roared in agreement, then immediately dispersed because, despite their enthusiasm for radical change, they were still ants, and ants cannot resist the urge to work. The queen finally speaks, kind of. Back in the royal chamber, Queen Formica IV stirred weakly. Her attendants fanned her with tiny leaves as she groggily addressed the colony. Calm yourselves, she rasped. There is no crisis. Some worker ants immediately accepted this as truth and went back to their shifts. Others looked around skeptically. Then the queen added, and everything is under control. That was the moment everyone knew it absolutely wasn't. Chapter 2. Mandibles at Dawn. The election begins. The announcement came at precisely 0800 antennae clicks, and it sent shockwaves through the colony. Queen Formica IV, in what the media later described as a bold and unexpected move, declared that for the first time in colony history, an election would be held to determine her successor. This, of course, was a lie. It wasn't bold. It wasn't unexpected. And it certainly wasn't voluntary. Queen Formica IV's pheromones had weakened beyond repair, and the ants were starting to question things. A dangerous development, to be sure. The last time a worker ant had asked, "Wait, why are we working 16-hour shifts for crumbs while the royal chamber is lined with imported sugar?" he was never seen again. To maintain the illusion of control, the Queen's advisors suggested a grand democratic spectacle, one that would ensure the appearance of choice while carefully eliminating anyone too dangerous to the status quo. And so, the Grand Mound election was born. The frenzy begins the moment the election was announced. Chaos erupted in the tunnels. Ambitious ants, most of whom had never done a day of actual work, scrambled to launch their campaigns. Prominent candidates emerged overnight, their names plastered across every tunnel entrance in hastily chewed-up leaf scraps. The worker ants, exhausted from their mandatory, voluntary shifts, groaned audibly. "Oh no, one side. Here we go again. It's going to be nothing but slogans, empty promises, and mandible waving for the next 2 weeks," another muttered. The soldier ants, however, were thrilled. "We get to beat up campaign protesters, right?" one asked eagerly. "We don't call it beating up," his commander corrected. "We call it pheromonal crowd control." The freeloaders, on the other hand, saw an opportunity. "This is it," their leader, Antagon, declared. "For years, the monarchy has hoarded sugar while we break our backs in the tunnels. But today, we take a stand. We will not only win this election, we will abolish elections forever." There was a moment of silence as his followers processed this statement. "Wait, so, we're overthrowing the system by winning within the system?" Antagon blinked. "Yes." Another freeloader scratched his antennae. "And once we win, we eliminate elections?" "Yes," Antagon repeated. "So then, we become the ruling class?" Antagon frowned. "I don't like the way you're phrasing that." But it was too late. The first philosophical fracture within the movement had begun. The candidates, a who's who of terrible choices. Every colony election needs candidates. Unfortunately, every candidate was objectively terrible. Candidate 1. General Mandibles, the law and order and campaign slogan: "A strong mandible is a safe mandible." Platform: more soldiers, more walls, more war. Main supporters: soldier ants, older ants who fear outsider ants taking our crumbs. Main policy proposal: build a giant wall around the mound to prevent foreign ant invasions, despite zero evidence of such invasions. Candidate 2. Lady Pheromona, the populist firebrand campaign slogan: "Power to the workers. Also, some power to me." Platform: advocates for worker rights, sugar redistribution, and removing term limits for herself. Main supporters: worker ants who haven't read the fine print. Main policy proposal: establishes a temporary emergency sugar collection program where all sugar is given to the government, her. Candidate 3. The royal larva, the heir apparent campaign slogan: "Vote for me, or I'll tell mom." Platform: I deserve the throne because, well, look at me. Main supporters. The royalists, the sugar hoarders, and ants too afraid to change the status quo. Main policy proposal. Mandatory ant holidays every time he feels tired, which is always. Candidate 4. Termatron the lobbyist, the corporate candidate. Campaign slogan. Why just hoard sugar when you can eat the mound? Platform. Deregulation, privatization of tunnels, and more corporate-friendly policies. Main supporters. The sugar barons, wealthy termites, and ants who are convinced trickle-down economics works. Main policy proposal. Allows termites full access to all mound infrastructure, a genius move for economic growth, but also a terrible idea for having a mound to live in. Candidate 5. Antagon, the freeloader leader. Campaign slogan. Abolish the system. Also, vote for me. Platform. Tear down the hierarchy, redistribute the sugar, dismantle the monarchy, the military, and possibly physics itself. Main supporters. Young ants, disillusioned worker ants, and anyone who just wants to watch the colony burn. Main policy proposal. Free sugar for all. Except for those who already have sugar. They must give up their sugar. Debate night. Where it all goes wrong. The grand debate was supposed to be a civil exchange of ideas. Instead, it immediately turned into a disaster. General Mandibulus called Lady Pheromona a weak-limbed radical with dangerous policies. Lady Pheromona accused Mandibulus of fear-mongering and distracting from the real issues. The royal larva mostly just drooled on himself. Termatron chewed through the debate podium while explaining the economic benefits of mound deregulation. Antagon declared that the election was rigged, the system was corrupt, and also, he would only accept the results if he won. Meanwhile, outside the debate chamber, the workers still toiled away, rolling their eyes. Can we vote for none of them? One muttered. Impossible, another sighed. That option isn't on the ballot. The election looms, and so does something worse. As the campaigns heated up, tensions in the colony reached an all-time high. Political brawls broke out in the tunnels. Sugar mysteriously disappeared from the colony reserves, again. And every faction declared that if they lost, it was because of election fraud. But while they were busy arguing, something big was coming. Something hungry. Something with a long tongue and a taste for ants. Yes. The great anteater was drawing near. Chapter 3. Antennae-waving debates. The grand debate. Where promises go to die. The grand mound debate was supposed to be a dignified affair. It was not. Hosted in the royal chamber, the debate had been billed as a serious policy discussion on the future of the colony. Instead, it quickly devolved into a mandible-flailing, pheromone-slinging spectacle that made even the most seasoned worker ant shake its head and mutter, "We're all doomed." The candidates had spent the last week perfecting their slogans, memorizing their vague talking points, and strategizing how to avoid answering any real questions. They took their places on the debate stage, each one determined to out-buzzword the others. The moderator, A respected elder worker ant who had been forced into this role against his will, took a deep breath and twitched his antennae. Welcome to the Grand Mound Debate, where we will discuss real issues facing the colony. Thank you for having me. General Mandibulus interrupted, his mandibles snapping aggressively. And let me start by saying, this colony needs strength. I was actually just doing the introduction. And WHO better to bring strength than a general? Mandibulus roared. The crowd cheered wildly, or, at least, the soldier ants did. The worker ants, meanwhile, exchanged glances that said, "Oh great, here we go." The moderator sighed, realizing that his life's work of maintaining order in the colony was about to be undone in a single night. "Fine," he muttered. "Let's get started." Opening statements. Lies and mandible waving. The royal larva was up first. Or, at least, he was supposed to be. The problem? The royal larva couldn't actually speak. He just wiggled slightly in his ceremonial silk cushion, emitting a faint gurgling noise. A media termite quickly scurried onto the stage and interpreted for him. "My dear ants," the termite declared, "the royal larva is honored to be here and would like to remind you that he is your rightful ruler by birth. There is no need for debate. This election is merely a formality." A long, uncomfortable silence followed. "Wait," an audience member finally blurted out. "Is his entire campaign just, 'Vote for me, or else'?" The termite cleared his throat. "Correct." The audience booed. The royal larva, entirely unaware of his own unpopularity, merely wriggled again. Next up was Lady Pheromona, who immediately launched into full populist mode. "Worker ants of the colony," she cried, her voice echoing through the tunnels. "You have been lied to, exploited, overworked, denied sugar while the elites hoard it for themselves." The worker ants in the audience murmured in agreement. "What have the royals done for you? Nothing. What has the military done for you? Nothing. But I, Lady Pheromona, will give you everything." Thunderous applause erupted from the worker class. One worker shouted from the crowd, "Does this mean we finally get reduced shift hours?" Lady Pheromona paused, then quickly pivoted. "Well, we'll look into it," she said vaguely. The worker frowned. "And what about actual sugar redistribution?" Lady Pheromona smiled nervously. "Oh, absolutely. I support redistribution, but only fair redistribution, you see," she said, expertly dodging specifics. "Rest assured, I will form a committee to explore the best way to study sugar fairness." The worker narrowed his eyes. "That sounds a lot like you're just going to keep things the same." Lady Pheromona immediately changed the subject. "Moving on, let's talk about our real enemy, termites." Mandibulus goes full Mandibulus. "Listen up." General Mandibulus roared the moment it was his turn. This colony is in Danger. From what? The moderator asked, tiredly. Everything. Mandibulas snapped. We need more soldiers, more tunnels, more security. You already have 10 times the budget of the worker class, the moderator pointed out. Mandibulas gasped, clutching his thorax as if personally offended. You think we're too secure? He growled. Just last week, I heard a suspicious aphid outside the mound. We are surrounded by enemies. Foreign ants, grasshoppers, wasps. Wasps have never attacked us, the moderator sighed. Not yet, Mandibulas shot back, eyes glinting with paranoia. A single soldier ant in the crowd began chanting, "Build the wall. Build the wall." Other soldier ants joined in enthusiastically, despite the fact that ants do not have walls and literally dig tunnels for a living. Termitron's economic nightmare. Next came Termitron, the termite lobbyist. Fellow ants, he said smoothly, flashing a practiced politician's smile, I come to you not just as a termite, but as a businessman. I see tremendous economic opportunity in this colony. The audience immediately tensed. And let me be clear, Termitron continued, all this fear-mongering about termites is overblown. Why focus on crumbs when we could be expanding our industry? By expanding our industry, do you mean eating the mound? An ant in the audience shouted. Termitron chuckled nervously. Ha, ha, who said that? Another worker ant stood up. Yeah, aren't termites literally known for eating entire structures? Termitron twitched slightly. I think we're getting distracted from the real issue here. And what is the real issue? The moderator asked, massaging his antennae in frustration. Termitron smiled. That we need to privatize tunnel maintenance and reduce sugar regulations to stimulate the economy. Half the audience gasped in horror. The sugar barons in the VIP section, however, nodded in approval. Antagon declares election fraud, before voting even begins. Finally, Antagon, leader of the freeloaders, took the stage. This election is a scam, he shouted. A total fraud. The moderator blinked. But it hasn't even happened yet. Doesn't matter. Antagon snapped. The system is rigged against us. Then why are you running? Antagon hesitated. Because we must burn down the system from within. So if you win, the system isn't rigged. Correct. And if you lose, revolution. The moderator gave up. The aftermath. Total chaos. By the end of the debate, no one was any closer to understanding policy. The soldiers were chanting for war, the workers were demanding actual answers, and Lady Pheromona was already selling merchandise. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a dark shadow loomed closer. The great anteater was almost here.